Hi, and welcome to this training on networking. There are a couple of different ways that you can network with other people, but this presentation is going to focus specifically on in-person networking, which is sometimes called traditional networking. It is face-to-face communication with another person, or basically just talking to other people. So you might be thinking, what's the big deal? I talk to people all the time. If that's the case, then that's great. Communication is a huge part of networking, so if you're comfortable talking to people, you're already on the right track. Traditional networking is focused specifically on talking to other people with the purpose of forming a professional relationship. Now, a professional relationship doesn't mean that all you talk about is work or business. It just means that you communicate with the person you're talking to in a professional way. The purpose of forming this relationship is to learn more about someone's job or their overall career path. And you're also teaching them about yourself in the process, your interests, your goals, what you're working towards. I know that we kind of emphasize the idea of talking to people face to face, but traditional networking can also be done over the phone, anywhere you're able to have an engaging conversation with someone. You can think of this as compared to text or email communication. Thinking about having these conversations with someone, especially if they're basically a stranger, might seem a little overwhelming, or intimidating, or just plain scary. But like we talked about just a minute ago, you talk to people all the time. We're just going to work on a few ways to practice having these professional conversations so that when you're doing it in the real world, you feel a little more comfortable. It might seem kind of crazy to think about practicing a conversation, but remember that you're working towards a big end goal here. So while this is just a conversation, networking is usually a little more intentional, which means that it happens on purpose. Just like you would practice before giving a speech or a presentation in school, it's a good idea to practice networking conversations so you're more comfortable when you're having them and also to help you feel more prepared to overcome any obstacles that might come up along the way. We're not going for practice makes perfect here, but we are hoping for practice makes more professional. So we're going to practice the 3 Ps to help you feel more prepared for networking conversations. The 3 Ps here are prepare, practice, and pull yourself together. All right, so we'll start with our first P, prepare. The name kind of speaks for itself here, but one way to feel more prepared for a networking conversation is, well, to prepare. If your networking conversation or informational interview is planned in advance, it's helpful to make a list of questions you want to ask and write them down so you can refer back to that list during your interview. Try to think about an order to the questions so the conversation has some natural flow to it. But don't get too overwhelmed if the conversation changes direction and you end up asking your questions out of order. Some people like to write an entire script instead of just a list of questions. This can be really helpful when practicing your conversation, which we'll talk about in the next step. But be careful that you don't get too focused on the script and forget to pay attention to the actual conversation. It's hard to predict both sides of a conversation that hasn't even happened yet. If you are able to write out and practice a script, though, you might feel more comfortable if things get jumbled up in your conversation. You'll have well-practiced buzzwords and sentences in your back pocket and ready for use. If you know who you're going to speak with, try to do some background research and learn more about their company or their job. If the company has a website, spend some time looking through it. You'll feel more prepared and you'll come across as more professional if you show a basic understanding of the work that they do. Like we mentioned before, some networking conversations also happen over the phone. If you're speaking to someone over the phone, be prepared to leave them a voicemail in case they don't answer. This might seem like the most intimidating part so far. I mean, who leaves voicemails anymore? Be sure to include your name, why you're calling, and a phone number where they can call you back. If you have a scheduled phone call with someone and they don't answer, wait a few minutes and give them another call. You don't need to leave more than one message. Also with phone calls, you need to be prepared to possibly speak with someone's assistant or an office manager before being connected to your actual contact. Make sure that you have the person's name and job title handy so you don't seem like you're scrambling. Do your best to prepare for whatever comes your way. So our next P, practice, is also just like it sounds. You're working to build confidence here, so the more you practice what you want to say and how you want to say it, the more confident you'll feel when you're actually having these conversations. If you wrote questions or a script during the prepare stage, now's the time to practice saying those things out loud. Do this over and over again. It's like muscle memory. Think about how good you are at texting. You probably haven't always been good at texting, but after doing it for a little while, it's probably something you don't even think about anymore. I bet most of you can even text without looking at your phone, which is impressive. The same idea applies here. When you say things over and over again, your brain will remember the repetition and you'll feel more comfortable when it comes time to say these things during your networking conversation. As you read through your questions or script, pay specific attention to how you're talking. Focus on your tone. How quickly are you talking? Try to pace what you're saying so that it sounds natural and clear and isn't too rushed. Also think about your volume. Are you talking too quietly? You obviously don't want to shout at anyone, but the way you speak can make just as much of an impression on someone as the words that you say. Speaking with confidence, or even just speaking with a smile on your face, can truly change the conversation. Sometimes you just talk the way you talk, and it's hard to notice a problem. A good way to catch yourself is to practice having these conversations with someone else, maybe a friend or a relative. Ask if someone's willing to role play with you as you practice. Role-playing can sometimes feel a little weird, and it definitely gets a bad rep. So if you're not able to convince anyone to help you out, try just having a networking conversation with them instead. Ask about their job or their professional goals. You'll probably be able to use some of the same questions you plan to use in your formal networking conversation, and at the same time, you'll still be building confidence and practicing conversation. Just remember to ask for their feedback when you're finished and try to be open to any notes they have to offer. If you're practicing solo, you can also record yourself on your phone or your computer and then listen for the things you might want to change as you play back your recording. Our last P, pull yourself together. Like we've talked about, confidence is such an important part of the networking process. A lot of that confidence will come from your preparation and practice stages, but there are a few other things that you can do to help yourself feel more confident as well. For one, on the day of your planned conversation, remember your personal hygiene routine. No one ever wants to be the smelly kid. And in an interview or networking situation, you might feel a little more stressed than usual. Take it from me. Added stress on a day when you forget to wear deodorant is a recipe for disaster. You don't need to go above and beyond here, but if you can, take a shower, put on deodorant, go through your normal routine. Just don't overdo it with a perfume or cologne or body spray. No one wants to be the smelly kid in that way either. Another way to boost your confidence is to dress for the occasion. You want to make sure that you're following the lead of the person you're going to interview here, but it's also okay to go a step beyond them. So if you're going to meet with a landscaper who's going to be wearing shorts and a t-shirt, you don't want to show up wearing a button-up shirt and tie. You'd probably both feel a little bit uncomfortable. It is okay, and maybe even a good idea, to wear khakis and a polo or some kind of collared shirt. You can either match their level of professional dress or go a bit beyond it. Make sure that you feel comfortable in the clothes that you're wearing. As you get ready for a scheduled meeting, you should pick out your outfit ahead of time and make sure that everything's clean and somewhat wrinkle-free. When it comes time for your interview, don't forget to take your questions or script with you. You put all of that time and energy into your preparation, you might as well take advantage. It's also a good idea to take a notepad or something to write on. Think low tech here. While it's sometimes okay to take notes on a laptop or your phone, having one of those out during an interview can be a distraction and might make it seem like you're not paying attention to the speaker. If you want to remember the conversation without having to jot notes the whole time, you can always ask the person if they're okay with you recording the conversation on your phone. One thing you can do to always look prepared and professional is to remember to take a pen or something to write with, and not something that you have to dig through your bag to find. So there you have it, your 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and pull yourself together. Remember back at the beginning of this presentation when you maybe felt a little overwhelmed about networking with people? Doesn't it feel a little more doable now? These 3 steps will help you build confidence as you become a networking expert. One last piece to networking is creating your very own elevator speech. This is a short speech you use to tell someone about yourself. Remember, networking is just as much about selling yourself or telling someone about who you are as it is about learning from that other person. It's a good idea to use a few of your P's when creating your elevator speech as well. You can write out a script, which should be about half a page long, and then practice saying it to someone so that it feels more natural and you remember the important parts of what you want to say. A lot of times in a job interview, one of the very first questions you'll be asked is, "Tell me about yourself." Your elevator speech should be the perfect answer to that question. You want to describe any experience you might have, whether that's work experience or a relevant class that you took, or a club or a team that you're part of, or even volunteer experience. And then talk about where you are now or what you're looking for now, and then some of your plans or goals for the future. The whole thing should only be about 30 to 45 seconds long, and you want to make sure that what you're saying is relevant. There's no need to mention the fact that you play basketball unless you can relate that fact to the bigger goal. Maybe being on a team taught you that you like working with other people. Or maybe your success at basketball shows how dedicated and hardworking you are. Or maybe it's even giving you leadership opportunities as you help out younger players. You can 100% make your elevator speech your own. Just make sure that what you're saying makes sense to the overall conversation. Elevator speeches are most commonly used during job interviews, but having this framework for how you can professionally introduce yourself to someone will make a big impact on your networking conversations as well.
An elevator speech is a quick and simple way to sell yourself to the employer and show them who you are. Even though the name implies that you'd only use this in an elevator, you can actually use this at job fairs or even while following up on your application. You should never say,
"Well, my name is Jane. I was born in a small town in North Dakota weighing like 8 pounds. My mom always said I was the cutest baby she ever did see. And that was the year I graduated from middle school." Good times. Alright, I think we're finally all caught up. So, do you think I'd be a good fit?
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm graduating high school and need some money. I don't have any experience except in playing video games, but I think that means I could press buttons on a cash register pretty quick. What do you say? Want to hire me?
An elevator speech should be quick, simple, and organized. The employer should walk away knowing who you are and what skills you bring to the table. A good example would be,
Hi, I'm Lacey, a junior at Northern Arizona University. Simply put, I love talking to people. My experience in retail and food service for the past 5 years has made me fall in love with customer service. I've learned to be a problem solver, a great team member, and a leader. I'd love to bring these skills to your company and build upon my previous experience.
whether you're standing in line at the movies, at a job fair, or even in an actual elevator, a well thought out pitch can bring you one step closer to landing that job.
All right, a few fast facts to finish us off. We've talked a lot about what networking is and how to network, but we haven't really talked much about why networking is important. A lot of people search for jobs online these days, but what most people don't realize is that the majority of jobs that exist in the world aren't ever posted online. Most of these positions are actually filled through networking or personal connections. We've also talked a lot about how to professionally communicate with someone, whether in person or over the phone. It's important to remember that a lot of communication is nonverbal. The words that you say are less than 1/10 of what someone notices about you, but you communicate quite a bit through your facial expressions and your posture. Most of the networking that we discussed in this training is intentional, scheduled networking conversation. But networking can happen anywhere. In fact, most networking actually happens outside of a work environment. Try to start conversations with any professional whose job you're interested in, or anyone that you look up to. Forming and maintaining networking connections with a variety of people in all different types of work can only benefit you in the long run.